Okay, welcome back everybody. Now that I've given you the overview of the Tippmann 98 Custom, let me tell you a bit about this one in particular. This is my Tippmann 98 Custom. As you can see, this looks nothing like a stock 98 Custom. There are a lot of changes here. Some of them are obvious externally and some others are internal that I'll tell you about. First, the big thing here, this has a low pressure kit on it. What that means is that there's an adapter running from the foregrip here inside to a little T-junction. The air can go up into the valve or it can go down into this volume chamber. If you're going to have lower pressured gas, then you need a greater volume of it to achieve the same velocity, hence the need for this volume chamber here. So what I've done is I have the low pressure kit, which encompasses the vertical adapter. I added a Palmer stabilizer regulator, very reliable regulator. It includes the volume chamber, and then a modified valve that has larger air passages and a softer spring. What this kit allows me to do is run the marker at about 400 psi rather than 800 psi. This gives me two main benefits. One, it improves the efficiency of the marker. Two, it improves the shot-to-shot consistency of the marker. Combined, these make the marker a very high performer for what it is. Along with this low pressure kit, I'm using a lighter hammer. This is actually a titanium hammer made by a company called Dark Horizons. I don't know if they're around anymore, but a few years back they made titanium hammers. And I got one and it's much lighter than the normal steel. I think it's steel hammer that comes stock with the Tippmann 98 Custom. This works really well with the low pressure setup, so we can kind of lighten up the whole thing. Finally, the last kind of related upgrade I have here is the rear velocity adjuster. So I can adjust the velocity using this screw to adjust the main spring tension here, rather than using the side velocity adjuster. That's the stock method of adjusting velocity on the Tippmann 98 Custom. So what that allows me to do is run this wide open so it doesn't inhibit the airflow at all, and adjust the velocity back here. This allows me to kind of sweet spot the regulator and the valve setup so that I'm getting the maximum efficiency out of this marker. As you can see, I'm also using a non-stock barrel here. This is a freak barrel. And then finally, just for comfort and ergonomics, I have a drop forward here, which is an on-off drop forward, which allows me to balance the weight of the gun in a way that I prefer a little bit more. And it allows me to get the tank out from where it would be in my shoulder. If I ran a bottom line, it would be sitting right here. The drop forward allows it to get out of the way and I could hold the marker much, much tighter. The mods that I made to this are some of the ones I talked about in the previous video. The internals have all been polished. That goes for both the inside of the receivers and also the power tube and the bolt itself have been sanded to smooth out the operation of the marker, decrease friction, increase efficiency. I've also tweaked, as I discussed, the trigger springs to make the trigger pull very light, but on a mechanical marker rather than an electronic marker, you're only going to achieve so light a trigger pull. The exception to that is the ULE mag. That's another story entirely. So the performance on this marker is excellent. The best way I can describe the efficiency is to tell you that one time I actually put a 12-gram bucket changer right here. I got 36 shots out of the 12-gram. On the 37th shot, the marker sputtered, meaning that there wasn't enough air left in the 12-gram to reset the hammer. Of those 36 shots, probably 33 to 34 were of a usable velocity. So that's pretty good efficiency for any marker, never mind an inline blowback like a Tippmann 98 Custom. The shot-to-shot consistency is also excellent, and that's partially a product of having an extremely efficient marker that uses a very predictable amount of propellant at a very consistent pressure every shot. Partially because of the low pressure system and partially because of the lightened hammer, this gun also has an extremely low level of kick between shots. So normally, if you're familiar with Tippmanns, with each shot the marker will rock a bit because the reciprocating mass is so heavy and the springs tend to be rather strong. In this marker with less mass and lighter springs, that's less of a problem. Finally, and this is all personal preference, but the balance and ergonomics of this marker, in my opinion, are perfect. When loaded with an air tank, normally to be a 13.3K, and a stick feed right here, the marker will balance about right there on my thumb. I can hold it with my thumb right in the trigger frame like that, and the marker will balance very well. I won't have to hold the front or the back up. When I play with the marker, I hold it with one hand on the frame, one hand on the low pressure chamber, so the center of mass is right in between where I'm holding the marker. It makes for an extremely balanced setup, and for me, an extremely ergonomic setup. So that's my Tippmann 98 Custom. It's kind of ugly, may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.